Hi, welcome. And welcome to our first session together of 2023. I hope you had some time for rest, recreation, and reflection during these winter holidays, that you were safe and weathered the snowstorm without getting stranded someplace, and that you were able to welcome the new year with an expansive and contented spirit. The secular New Year always makes me think of the 4 New Years of Jewish tradition. In addition to the first of the Hebrew month of Tishri, which is Rosh Hashanah, and the 14th of Nisan, which is the first night of Passover, and constitutes what our ancestors considered the New Year of Spring or the New Year of Harvests. There is a New Year of the Trees. There is also a New Year of the Trees, which is observed as Tu B'Shvat, or the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Shvat. And there was also observed in ancient times the New Year of the Kings, whose date has been lost to us, but which, for the sake of consistent record keeping, was the day on which every new monarch's reign officially began. So with all these possibilities for new years, new beginnings in our thoughts, let us take our first brief break to breathe. That came out all right. And I would invite you to find your meditative poses, and let us take a New Year's inventory as we go through our bodies and find all those places where we pack away our worries and our concerns and our difficulties. So again, you may want to close your eyes, you may want to focus on something indistinct in the distance. Let us just think about, turn our focus inwards from the very tops of our heads, behind our eyes, our ears. Let us release our jaws. And in doing so, hopefully the muscles that both smile and frown, frowning muscles, there are many more of those. And we work down to our necks, which are prime places for tension and stress. And we could roll our heads, or whatever it is that helps you to let go of whatever is holding your neck, other than the muscles, our shoulders, our arms, our elbows, lower arms. Let us rotate our wrists, even in funny ways, if that suits you. And then let us mentally release our lungs and our digestive systems, our tummies. Just let it relax. You could even take a hand and just kind of rub it over your tummy, over your waist. Just a healing kind of assurance. And we release our thighs and our knees and our lower legs. We can twirl our ankles and then dig our toes into our shoes or the floor or the carpet, or we can even imagine the sand under our feet and a shining warm sun. And let us take that deep, deep breath and hold it a bit. See if there are other places we can fill up. And then release. And we might inhale again, even to a count of 5, 4, 6, whatever works. But be sure to feel how good it is. And then hold for the same count. And then release for the same count. It feels, what feels so good is just the physical sensation of the air filling our bodies and not thinking about anything else, but just that. I mean, it puts us right here in this moment. We don't think about anything else, just this. And follow the breath inside. And then as we release it, follow it as we exhale, just kind of go with it into a nothingness. And then we inhale again. And stay with that inhale. Follow the air inside your body. Feel where it is going, how it feels going there. Is there any place we're not reaching, we're not filling up? And then let's just hold it for a couple of seconds to enjoy it. And then we release. And everyone has to do this on their own time. And you may find that as you continue to do it, your breaths relax, that they become longer even, or not. Everyone has their own pattern. In the days leading up to New Year's Eve, I was quite aware of writings and conversations that were focused on the making of New Year's resolutions, but were all cautionary in terms of advising us not to go overboard, so as not to set ourselves up for defeat and disappointment. It seems that there are statistics that confirm that within about 6 weeks of January 1st, something like 90% of us have abandoned our New Year's resolutions. While the statistic is not surprising, I found many of the suggestions for staying with our resolutions to be helpful and even wise in navigating our lives and undertaking any new practice, habit, or endeavor. The first and most consistent recommendation, as you might guess, is to set achievable goals. One writer used an acronym to describe what she presented as a workable approach. Be smart, capital S-M-A-R-T, all caps, about setting goals. The letters of SMART in her formulation stand for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. The S, or specific, refers to concrete, clearly defined goals. In other words, we shouldn't set ourselves up for failure by setting an impossibly grand, unrealistic goal. If we want to spend more time outside, we shouldn't say we're going to go out for an hour every day, rain or shine. We need to set a 5 to 10 minute goal. Tell ourselves that even 1 minute outside is better than no minutes and see how that works. Measurable means that we can keep track of our progress. At the end of every week, we need to check in on ourselves and see if our goals are working, if we're still motivated, if we've been able to fulfill our goal, and make adjustments as necessary. The A, achievable. So we've had specific, measurable, now achievable, SMA, means that we want to aim high, but we want to feel that we can actually get there. Again, we need to see if our weekly progress is making us feel that we can achieve our ultimate goal. If we're not fulfilling even our weekly markers, then we may want to reconsider our manageable steps and reflect on the nature of the goal itself. Sometimes our goals are aspirational, and when we actually have to make them happen, we find that they are not where we live every day. Sometimes they are absolutely achievable, and we just need to be able to be flexible along the way. And I think deep inside, we probably know the difference at the very outset. In other words, if our goal is relevant, that's the R of SMART, that means that it really matters to us and is not something we think we should do or care about. The relevance of our resolution will go a long way toward determining our success in fulfilling it. And finally, if we have a timeline, a finite amount of time in which to accomplish our goal, we will be able to measure our progress along the way and assess from time to time if we are on track to achieving our goal. It's a very practical approach that keeps us honest about what we truly want to achieve and not what we think we should achieve. For those of us who may be seeking a healthier, less anxious, less stressed existence in the new year, I was interested by the writing of Tracy Dennis Tiwari, who shared strategies that can help us deal with our worries and anxiety, as well as with the fulfillment of any of our resolutions or goals. Her first piece of advice, which is what drew me to her, is to locate worry in our bodies. This reminded me of what we do at the beginning of every meditative session, what we just did. We take inventory of our bodies to find where the stresses, anxieties, and fears are locked into tightly held muscles that need to be released. Her instructions: worry keeps you in your head rather than feeling emotions in your body. So when you find yourself worrying, pause and refocus attention on your sensations. Look for the usual signs: heart beating faster, weakness, warmth, stiffness, a dry, constricted throat, rapid breathing, or butterflies in your stomach. Explore them. Move your body to see if that changes how you feel. Stretch, sit up straight, breathe. Practice riding the wave of your feelings. They will rise and fall, even without you doing anything. Her point is, I believe, if we can move our attention from the frantic obsessing with an issue to our body's response, we create a bit of distance in which to navigate and to liberate ourselves from the vice-like grip of worry. She then suggests that we make our worries concrete, specific, and contained. As with resolutions, our worries can seem overwhelming, with one leading to another in a seemingly endless chain of anxiety. We need to focus. What is the worry that is most on our minds? We need to identify that concern, pare it down to its essential difficulty, and then make it time-bound. After a certain amount of time, we need to put it aside until we can concentrate on solving the issue. Worries are generally less terrifying when we can confront them in the daylight and when we feel more in control. Then we can brainstorm and problem solve, always starting with small, achievable steps in a longer process. Her final suggestion reminded me again of our meditative goals: to let go. As she writes, worries send us into the future, and once we've visited there, it's time to let go and return to the present. That's the practice. We can only live in this moment. We are continuously pulled to the past and the future. We cannot avoid that, or we would be avoiding being human. But our goal is not to be so consumed about either the past or the future that we miss the present moment, which is the only one we have. Finally, I came across a particularly appealing approach to making resolutions. The author, Tish Harrison Warren, is a priest in the Anglican Church in North America and is the author of the book, Prayer in the Night, for those who work or watch or weep. She writes in part in her 10 New Year's resolutions that are good for the soul. I accomplished 0% of my New Year's resolutions last year. I'm obviously no sage of discipline, but I'd argue that the chief value of resolutions is not found in our success or failure at keeping them. Instead, they help us reflect on what our lives are like, what we would like them to be like, and what practices might bridge the difference. I would share with you, in other words, as an aside, this is teshuvah, the process of trying again, returning, renewing, becoming our best selves. It is what we are reminded to do every year on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. She continues, there is goodness then in the very process of making resolutions. There is hope in the idea that we can change, that we can keep growing, learning, and trying new things. This hope of renewal is the point of resolutions for me. For 2022, I became curious about what resolutions I might adopt that would help my soul. The practice of spiritual resolutions is not new. In the 18th century, Jonathan Edwards, known for his fiery sermons and his mention in Hamilton as Aaron Burr's grandfather, made a list of spiritual resolutions and reviewed them weekly. They began, this is Jonathan Edwards, being sensible that I am unable to do anything without God's help. I do humbly entreat God, by God's grace, to enable me to keep these resolutions. She continues, so with Edward's caveat and prayer as my own, I asked for help in thinking about resolutions that would benefit our souls as individuals or that would help the soul of our nation and our world. I asked friends who are pastors, writers, scholars, and spiritual leaders to offer suggested resolutions for 2022. And she spells that RESOULUTIONS, resolutions. Here were some of the many responses I received, and they come from a variety of people. The first, take time to reflect. This might simply be asking myself as I look over my calendar, my projects, lists, my daily journal, what's working, what's not, why? Another resolution. And her suggestion is not to take all of these, but maybe there's one of these soul resolutions that will speak to you. Or two, plant seeds of humility. Make it a bi-monthly goal to engage in a conversation with one who is not part of your political, religious, or cultural community, with the intention of learning something from them. Then watch humility grow, which is a forgotten yet desperately needed virtue in our age of polarization and cancellation. Another, care for the earth in small ways. Find one or two small ways to care more faithfully for creation. I want to love my neighbor by being conscious about my use and consumption of the planet. If everyone does something, those small things add up to big things. Excuse me, just 1 second. Think about the third person. Every time we act, our actions affect more people than we actually see. So for instance, if you send an angry email to someone, you will be affected by it first, and the person you send it to will be affected by it second. But who will be next? That person's spouse? Their child? What will that effect be? Is it worth it? If we all thought a little more about the third person, we would likely be more careful with how we treat each other. Another one, engage with the off-screen world first. Every morning, wherever I am in the world, I go outside before I look at a screen. I've managed to do this consistently for about 4 years. Often I go outside just for a few moments, but as soon as I step outside, I not only find my senses coming alive, I also find myself feeling smaller, a creature in the midst of creation, rather than the god of a tiny, glowing world. It's been kind of ridiculously transformative. Ridiculously, that is, given how simple this discipline is. I've found myself far more grateful, far less anxious, and far less interested in whatever my screens have to tell me that day. Make a plan to seek racial justice and healing. Write a racial justice action plan. I'm sitting down with my whole family to make this plan using the ARC, capital A, capital R, capital C, of racial justice as a model. We're going to be intentional about building our A, awareness, forging our relationships with a variety of people, and C, committing to working on a systemic level to fight racism. Defying the dehumanizing effects of racism is good for our neighbors and for our own souls. ARC, awareness, relationships, committing. Take stock of your life every week. John Newton, the 18th century Anglican cleric and abolitionist, had a Saturday at 6 p.m. exercise to help him get ready for Sunday. It had 3 parts. The first part was to make 2 lists, all the mercies, blessings, and good things to be thankful for that had happened to him that week. And second, a list of sins, of omission and commission he had committed against others and God. The second part was to reflect on the discrepancy between God's goodness to him and his behavior. The third part was a rededication of life, a refreshing and deepening of our commitment to God and God's expectations of us. This is what we would call the mitzvot, the commandments. Keep the Sabbath from a non-Jew. In 2020, I, like the rest of the world, was forced into rest. Everything shut down in so many ways, I didn't have a choice. But then in the summer of 2021, many of the events and activities picked up. It felt like we were catching up on lost time and went full speed ahead. As a result, rest has been elusive. But this fast-paced, nonstop work and activity isn't the way humans are made. I need rest. That's how God created us. The Torah commands us to observe the Sabbath. When we can actually do so, it is a revelatory experience, a renewal, and of affirmation. Finally, encourage the people around you. My resolution is to look for an opportunity every day to give encouragement to someone in my path, whether that be a family member, a colleague, a cashier, or a child. Giving encouragement benefits my well-being too. With these resolutions in mind, so thoroughly reminiscent of doing mitzvot, Let us breathe. Let us breathe in this different way of looking at resolutions. It's different from losing weight or saving more money or making time for exercise. They are resolutions that feed us internally, that can feed us internally, even one. Another possibility is to wake up and to offer not so much a prayer of gratitude, although that's perfectly lovely, but to just spend a moment, even before getting out of bed, a moment in gratitude. Our ancient prayers tell us that upon wakening in the morning, we can say a prayer to God for thanking God for restoring our souls to our bodies, restoring the breath to our bodies. It was there all along, but the sense of waking up and with restoration after a night's sleep. We could do it at night as well, before going to sleep. There are many ways to feed our souls. It doesn't have to be from the list of suggestions I just offered. It can be anything that strikes you, anything you may already be doing. You just might want to be somewhat more focused on it or mindful of it. By way of conclusion and setting an intention for the week ahead, I would share with you these reflections concerning New Year's resolutions from Samuel Johnson, who lived from 1709 until 1784. When I look back upon resolutions of improvement and amendments, which have year after year been made and broken, either by negligence, forgetfulness, idleness, casual interruption, or morbid infirmity, when I find that so much of my life has stolen unprofitably away, and that I can decry by retrospection scarcely a few single days properly and vigorously employed, why do I yet try to resolve again? I try because reformation is necessary and despair is criminal. I try in humble hope of the help of God. So let us, like Samuel Johnson, and as our tradition urges us, resolve to continue resolving, even if it is every single day. We can resolve again and again to be better, to do better, and to live our very best lives as the divine gifts that they are. God bless you in this new year, one of many we can observe. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.